Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode, I believe, 4 of the Christian Dating Game podcast. I'm now just going live on Instagram as well as already here on YouTube and Twitter. And I want to thank you all for being here. There's taking your time to spend this time with me. I'm sure there are people watching this recording as well. I just want to welcome you guys and everyone who does join this live stream. Last week, I did not do a stream because I was a little bit under the weather. I had a bit of a cold and just a sore throat, and I decided to call it off. But this week, I've still got a little bit of the sore throat, to be quite honest. But I'm here. I'm going to be doing it. And today, I got 2 really great questions, which I'm going to be answering, particularly about masculinity, femininity, and integrated femininity, which is such an important thing. So we'll give a little bit of time for some people to filter in. Still not many people joined yet, but we will get there, I'm sure. I'm drinking this morning. For me, it is Friday morning. For you guys, I'm sure most of you, it's Thursday night. I'm drinking some Indonesian coffee, as I generally do. This is a Wanoja extended fermentation. Wanoja is a part of West Java. West Java is very well known for fruity coffees. The terroir over here really produces a lot of strong fruit flavored coffee. And this is a very raspberry forward, very rich, flavorful coffee. It's not for everyone. Like, I know if I gave this to my parents, they would not enjoy it. It's way too robust, shall we say. Good acidity, very delicious coffee, to be quite honest. I didn't bring the bag with me, but it was roasted by the best coffee brewer in Indonesia. He won the coffee brewing championship, as in like his barista skills, and came 5th in the world, I think 2 years ago. I've actually been to his coffee shop. It's a very small place. It's more like it's almost like going into a little bar or something, where it's kind of it's all just, it's got like almost like a coffee bar, and you sat there next to the people, and it's very small, very intimate, and he brews it for you right there and then. And it was a pretty cool experience, actually. But I was talking to the guy, and he says he's actually transitioned more into roasting than the coffee shop. He's actually making more money from that. So that's who roasted this coffee. So again, I can see a few more people joining. I just want to thank you for joining. Just a reminder, whenever I do this, it is live on Twitter, it's live on YouTube, it's live on Instagram. Okay, so you can watch it on whatever platform suits you best. I want as many people to get access to this as possible, because this is, my way of really trying to serve people and trying to help people out, answer questions, and give you a better understanding of dating, Christian dating, and hopefully get a better results in your life. Ultimately, I do this. I create my content. I have my job. I have my coaching business is ultimately done to try and help people. Like, I try and help you guys get into relationships, get married, because I do think that's a net good, not just for you, but for society as a whole. And this is one way that I can do that and get you guys engaged. So if you have any questions throughout this stream, please feel free to ask me. Help me to serve you. I really do want to serve you guys to the best of my ability. And I've got a wealth of knowledge, and sometimes I just gotta have the right question to draw it out of me, and get me speaking on those topics. So, but today I got asked a really great question about masculinity, femininity. I did a tweet on this, and a guy asked me about it that I really want to break down. And also a little bit of a more general point. I had another question about how to meet a wife, which I will also break down. And then something that I've been talking a lot with my clients lately about, it's summer now. It's a great time to meet women. It's a great time to go out and connect with women. There's a lot more opportunities. People are out more. There's a lot of different activities that you can't normally do that you'll be able to do now. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to capitalize on the summer months. That wasn't a particular question, but that's just something that's been a feature of a few of my coaching calls lately. So before we really get into it, and before I dig into the first of these topics, I would like just to say a little prayer for our time, just to set the tone and to try and provide the best value that I can. So please bear with me while I just say a quick prayer. So, dear our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together of being able to share wisdom, and I pray the wisdom that I share will be aligned with you, will come from you, and you will approve of this message, Lord, and you will guide me and inspire me as I talk to the people at home who are listening to this, both recorded and live. And I pray, Lord, that this will just be a time of learning and discovery and a chance to really build towards a better life, which we all want in all aspects of our lives, Lord, but particularly with regards to our dating life and relationships. So, Lord, we thank you and pray this to you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you, guys, while we went through that. So let's get into it. So I did a tweet it was about a week ago now, actually. And I'm going to read out the tweet because the guy who asked me the question on Twitter was in response to this tweet. And I decided to tackle it here rather than doing it to him personally, because then more people can hear the response. So here, the tweet went like this: the heart of attraction is not masculinity, it's an integrated femininity. If you allow women to feel more comfortable with their own femininity, they'll fall for you. And this is something that is, and he asked me what do I mean by integrated femininity and what does this tweet mean essentially? And I get it, Twitter nowadays, I've talked about it extensively. I'm not particularly happy with the direction Twitter's taken with the algorithm and things like that. It's funny, like I get more people see my tweet on my content on Instagram that don't follow me than people who follow me on Twitter see my content, which, I have 500 followers on Instagram, 31,000 on Twitter. So you can see that right there, the algorithm is somewhat broken. And compared to other platforms. And the way that the algorithm is currently rewarding content is that it's really not rewarding this kind of content, which is something that is necessarily nuanced and is something that is really done to provoke introspection and kind of provoke deeper thought patterns rather than the kind of more simplistic content that seems to be performing better on Twitter these days, and kind of biography style content and drama filled content. And this is what it's supposed to do. When I tweet things like this, it is supposed to provoke a little bit of thought behind it. What do I actually mean by that? And then I usually expand on these things on my newsletter. I used to do threads. I don't bother anymore because nobody, they don't get any views. So there's no point me spending an hour and a half writing a thread if 700 people see it. It's just not worth. It's not a useful use of my time. But this is a place where I can expand on this idea. And this is something that does necessitate a bit more of a deep dive, because when people talk about dating, there's two main schools of thought online and dating. There's the kind of masculinity, manosphere, red pill stuff, which I kind of come out of, which is that we need to be more masculine. Men are not masculine. That's why they fail with women. And then we have the kind of more conventional dating advice, which most people in the world kind of follow, which is, being a man is bad and you just have to be yourself and kind of, be more feminine. And they don't say be more feminine, but that's actually what they're driving at. And this is also wrong. And there's this third way that is really, really necessary, which is what I'm trying to get through, particularly within Christian dating, which tends to skew more to the feminine style of dating advice. And then when you're in marriage, you're supposed to be all masculine, but when you date, you're supposed to be feminine. It's kind of this weird thing. But really, what makes attraction is what makes people the most attractive is when they are masculine. They have a masculine edge. They're working out. They're in shape. They have a mission. They're pursuing their goals. They're working towards something bigger than themselves. But they have this element to them which is somewhat feminine, which is and which is why it's called an integrated femininity, where there's almost like this kind of 80-20 rule where you're 80% masculine, but you have this 20% of you, which is more in touch with your emotions, which is able for, so for me, like one of the things that is quite feminine about me in kind of a masculine versus feminine sense is I'm really into whiskey. Now, you might think being into whiskey is a masculine thing, but alcohol in general and you know is a form of femininity. It's a feminine energy. It's chaos. It introduces a bit of chaos into your life, and particularly when you get into things again. How did I start this stream? I started this stream talking about coffee and the flavors and the the appreciation I have for it. This kind of more refined palate is something that I'm very much into when it comes to cigars, whiskey, coffee, chocolate. I'm looking to really explore these. This is actually quite a feminine thing where it's almost a pursuit of pleasure and a expanding an uncovering and a discovering of this kind of sensory world that women tend to have a much more naturally refined palate than men, for example. So this is me just illustrating one area of my life, which may seem not particularly feminine. I'm into whiskey. If I say that to a man, it comes across masculine. But the actual way that I'm into it, it's not like I'm just drinking it for the sake of drinking it. It's actually a feminine exploration of the character of the whiskey, right? Which is why sometimes guys will, put their nose up. You see a guy like tasting wine, for example, and it's a similar process. I'm just not really into wine. Like, they swill the wine and they smell it, and odor of carrot salad, right? Or whatever else it might be. A lot of guys will put their nose up that because they think it's a bit gay, it's a bit feminine, and they're not wrong. But when you are an integrated man who is still masculine, who works out, who is running their business, whatever else it might be, has got a lot of masculinity, this provides depth to you and provides you with this kind of character, which means that you don't come across as a caricature. So much of the masculinity dating advice makes men into caricatures of men. It doesn't make them into like a whole individual who's really interesting that women can sink their teeth into and can allow women themselves to unveil their own femininity around you, right? Being masculine does draw out a woman's femininity, but when you're so masculine and you're so hard and there's such an edge to you, if you always act like that, she begins to withdraw because she can never relax around you. Whereas when you have that also in the right setting, the right circumstances, right? I'm not drinking whiskey all the time and having this feminine act. No, this sit down and this pursuit of pleasure. No, I do it in the evening when I finish my work, when I finish my workout, when I finished, making money for the day, whatever else it might be that I'm doing, when I finished, educating my son, all these things that I do in my life. When it's time to switch off, I allow this almost feminine aspect to come out, and it allows us to relax together and to take that edge off, and it allows my wife to be more feminine around me as well. And this is a problem that so many guys have, even in the way you arrange dates. Like if you just go with the full hard-nosed 100% masculine way, you go, okay, I'm going to meet you here at this time. Let's go for coffee at Couple Cups at 9 p.m. See you there. I mean, 9 p.m. probably a bit late, but you know what I mean. 4 p.m. And you just tell them what to do. Now, this is what a lot of masculinity dating coaches say. And they say because it comes across confident, it's kind of, she has to fit into your world and all this jazz. And there's an element of truth to that you don't want to come across too much in the other direction, too wishy-washy, right? You don't want to come across like a guy who is very feminine, letting her decide and letting her choose. But this hardness, this total hardness, puts off and pushes away and repels a lot of women as well. So a better way, for example, like I say, this is how you can integrate an element of femininity into the way that you're arranging dates. And this should run through your whole dating process, right? When you are dating women, you cannot just be a caricature and just 100% a masculine man. It's not going to go as well as you think it will, believe me. So you can take the lead. You can say the place that you're going to go, hey, let's meet for coffee. I know this really great coffee shop. But then you ask, like, what's your schedule like? Like, I'm free on Tuesday and Friday. What works for you? You have this element of softness to it, which allows, like, okay, I'm taking the lead, I'm taking control, but here's this softness to actually make it work and to allow you to relax and understand I'm not just some hard-nosed man, right? And that allows her, well, that makes her much more likely to actually go on a date with you and actually, as well as overcoming some logistical things, it's more understanding. The feminine is more understanding, the masculine is more um, disagreeable, agreeable versus disagreeable. And we want to have that element of leadership and taking the lead with the blend of femininity. And I was thinking about this before I jumped on this live stream. And it really reminded me of this guy that I grew up with. I won't say his full name, but his name was Joe. And he was like some pretty camp dude who he was a good looking guy, but he was very camp. Everyone thought he was gay for a while. But in reality, he was someone who absolutely crushed it with women. He would be around all these beautiful women all the time. He allowed them to feel comfortable with him. He danced. He was a dancer, so he would dance with them and allow them to be feminine in their moments of dance. And like he would play the masculine role. He was a very good dancer. He would play the masculine role when dancing, but you'd have this almost campness to him that allowed women to really relax around him in a way they couldn't with other men. And this guy used to get the most attractive women at school all the time. And he's now married now with kids, so he's definitely, well, I mean, I say he's definitely not gay. He could still be gay, to be fair. That doesn't mean anything. But it's just an example how, as a man looking inwards, looking at him from the external, would be like, man, this is gay, this is lame, he's so feminine. But at the same time, he had probably the best success of any man I know with the best quality women in my life. Like he would get all the 10 out of 10s at school, all of them. They'd be eating out of his hand. And that's because he had this integrated femininity to him, which allowed them to relax and express their femininity around him, you know. But he wasn't just a 100% feminine guy. He still had that masculine edge. He still said what he thought to them. He was often, very cutting with them and said that, had that hard-nosed element to him, that order to him as well. But he'd managed to get that balance so well, even when we were like 17, 18, he'd already kind of got that down and understood it. And this is something that you need to bring to the dating world. If you want a woman to fall in love with you, you can never come across as a caricature. You can never come across as just this masculine dude who just like, I've met him before. I've seen him in movies. I know you already, right? I don't need to get to know you any better because I already have met you 100 times. That's the worst place you can be in. And this can go, by the way, for anything, not just masculinity. Like often I'll meet clients who work with me, who will be, software engineers. They have the software engineer haircut. They wear the standard nerdy looking glasses. They have it, the way they dress is all the same. And there's nothing wrong with being nerdy. There's nothing wrong with being a software engineer. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. But when you have it all taken together and you go and you talk to a woman for the first time, she doesn't need to keep talking to you because she's met you 100 times before. And if you just fall into this stereotype, this caricature of a certain type of person, or you fit it, very closely anyway, never going to be 100%. Women just aren't going to be interested in you because they aren't going to be interested in getting to know you better. Right? They're just not going to want to get to know you better because they've already met you 100 times before. So you need, and it's the same thing with masculinity. You need to have this integration within you of like, I am this guy. Like there's nothing wrong with being a nerdy dude, but I'm a nerdy dude who does jujitsu, right? Who works out, who goes to rock concerts, who wears leather jackets, whatever else it might be. where you have this kind of duality to your character, which provides depth and provides intrigue and allows her to want to get to know you better. And you've got to be comfortable with this as well. Again, you have to be comfortable with your femininity. If I go back to this example, the guy from school, Joe, he was unabashedly himself. He had no problem dancing with a woman, with a girl in the schoolyard. He had no problem doing that at all at school, in class. He would dance with them in front of everyone. Everyone would, like, all the guys would be like, "Oh, this is lame," but the girls loved it because he was so confident in who he was, and he was so unabashed in the fact that I have this feminine aspect to my character. But who cares? Right? This is who I am, and I'm confident in that. And that was also a big part of why he got such success. And he married an absolute smoke show as well. So unsurprisingly. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions on this topic. It's a big one that I can go off on some different tangents as well. But having that femininity is very, very important. It really is an important thing to have to your character, um, within you. I mean, emotions is another whole stream I could go down, and how a man who is an emotional alchemist and is able to really build that emotionality and transform a woman's emotions through his own emotional awareness, will have the kind of success with women that guy who cannot do that can only dream of. And again, all of this is necessary for you to have a healthy and successful marriage as well. The way you date and the way you treat women while you're dating or while you're single will impact the way that you treat your wife as well. Sometimes I'll talk to guys and they'll say, I'll be fine as soon as I get into a relationship. And yeah, maybe there's an element of truth to that. They probably would be better boyfriends and husbands than they are, single men dating. They probably would be better. They'd be more suited to their character. But the way you date is the way you relate to women. And if you aren't good at making women feel good on a date, you won't be good at making your wife feel good when she's married to you either. Which is why the best thing you can do to have a healthy marriage is to improve your dating skills, because dating is just how you relate to women. That's it. It's how you relate and how you communicate with women. And yes, there's a different style of communication when you're on a first date as when you've been married to a woman of 8 years, but the underlying dynamic remains the same. It doesn't change. So if you can't do it now when you're single, what makes you think you'll be able to do it when you're married? Probably cope. It's probably a little bit of hopium, to be quite honest. So just a reminder, guys, this is live on YouTube, it's live on Twitter, it's live on Instagram. You can watch it on any of those platforms. I can see a few people have just joined on a few. It just pulls them all together on what I'm on, so I can see the total amount watching at the moment. I don't know who's watching where. But if you have any questions, you have anything you'd like me to explore or anything you'd like me to expand upon that I've just talked about, feel free to drop it. Drop it in the comments. The viewer comments, they will show up in the live stream. I'll be able to see them all, and I'd be really interested to see how I can best serve you. I keep saying this. My business is a service business, and it's not just a service business, and it's a consultation coaching business. It's a service to the people that follow me. Like, it's a service to the people who want to know better. It's the way that I can serve you, and this is one of the ways that I can serve you without you having to even pay me a penny. You're getting this for free. You're getting basically the opportunity to pick my brain for free, which is, people pay me hundreds and thousands of dollars for advice. So they don't pay me hundreds of thousands. They pay me hundreds or thousands, depending on the program that we do. So yeah, ask me questions, hit me up, get me answering what you want to know. So the second question that I got, and this is something that's really, really, a very broad question. This guy just kind of asked it me kind of like off the cuff on Instagram, which is, how do I meet my wife? And it's like, well, There's a lot we can talk about there. That's a very wide question. It's not necessarily the best question I've ever had. Targeted questions are always better, giving examples and things like that. But it's an open-ended question which allows me to go in the direction I want to go in. So thank you very much. And the reason, the first thing to say is if you are looking to meet more women and meet your future wife, then I do have a free guide which will help you do this. It teaches you the three best ways to meet women today. It's 100% free. It's a free training. I think it's like 30 something minutes long or something. I've linked it in the description box on YouTube. It's under the tweet that this is, being live streamed under on Twitter. And if you're watching on Instagram, it's in my bio. But the Christian Man's Dating Roadmap will show you the best way to meet women to eventually meet your wife. But the direction I want to take this is a direction that I don't often hear people talk about, which is if you're looking to meet your wife, the first thing you really need to be thinking about, am I someone who is capable and ready to be a husband? Right? We always like to put the emphasis on meeting women and what the woman and how to meet them. Whereas often the best thing we can actually do is to look internally. And there is an element of looking internally there. You're looking, how can I meet women, right? What can I do, right? But we also have to think, how am I coming across to these women? What makes them want to be with me? So I kind of decided to take this angle for this question and kind of saying how can you meet a wife? Well, how can you become husband worthy? So there are little things that you can do while you're single to make sure that you're going to be, when you are meeting women, putting your best foot forward when you're around them. For example, are you communicating honestly and directly? Are you capable of facing a little bit of confrontation, a little bit of conflict in your conversations on your dates? Are you able to, push a little bit of question her, go down a little bit of an angle of what she's looking for, what you're looking for? Do these things align? Are they what you want from life? Are you willing to say what you want, or are you going to be moderating your language and changing what you say based on what you think she wants to hear? And are you avoiding those moments of conflict, those moments of confrontation? This is a really big question to ask yourself, because if you are, it means you've got to do some work there yourself before you think about finding your wife. You've got to do that internal work as well. Another thing is, obviously, all these things are aimed, and I'm taking from a Christian lens as well. But, you don't have to be Christian to learn from it, because, Christian morality and Christian ethics is what the whole of the Western world is based on. And that's why the West has the best morals and the best ethics and the most healthy, well-rounded individuals in the world that I've experienced. It comes from the fact it's based in Christianity. So if you apply these lenses, even not as a Christian, you'll be a better person. Are you slow to anger? Or are you someone who finds yourself getting frustrated at women, angry at the dating situation? You're letting small frustrations spill over into big problems. Is that something that's happening to you as well? And just a reminder, guys, you can watch this on Instagram, you can watch this on YouTube, you can watch this on Twitter. I'm on all three of those platforms live right now, and the pooled audience there together. So whichever of those suits you better. So are you slow to anger? Are you getting angry in life, or are you able to control that emotional response? Again, there's nothing wrong with getting angry at times in the right setting, in the right place. But are you able to control that? Are you able to allow that moment, have that deep breath, and let it out slowly so that you're not pushing any further? It's a good question to ask yourself. Are you honoring and respecting other people's boundaries? Again, I've got a great example of this week of a client of mine, and I told him this. He got on and he's been connecting really well. He's been on like 3 or 4 dates in the past month or so. But he made a pretty bad mistake this week. Yeah, it's not that bad of a mistake, but he made a mistake anyway. he was talking to this girl who was working, she was serving, she was very receptive, she was open. He built some security, he built some sexual chemistry. It was going well. And he asked her for her number, and then she said, no, sorry, I'm at work. And that's something you have to respect as a man. You know, dating is not all about what you want. That's part of it. You have to go after your desires. That was part of his issues. He wasn't going after his desires previously. And that's what one of the things we've been working through. You have to go after what you want, but you also have to understand there's another half to this process. It's not just you on your own. You know, there's another person who's on the receiving end of these things. It's someone who you want to go forward and potentially have a relationship with. And if they don't want to, and in this scenario she refused, like, you have to accept that and honor that and respect that. You have to respect their perspective. Same if a woman doesn't want to go on a second or third date with you. You just have to respect that. You know, sometimes it's not about you. More often than not, it's not about you. It's about them and their own issues as well, as long as you're working through your issues, that is. But my client made the mistake of, he didn't actually do it, but he reached out to me and he said, hey, you know, told me the situation. I think I'm going to keep going to the work because I felt there was something there. And maybe, you know, I'll ask one of the other work colleagues, you know, when she doesn't work. So maybe I can meet her outside of the work setting so that she'll say yes to give me my number. And I had to kind of pull him back here and say, hey, man, like, you don't want to be doing that. Because the reason she said no is because she's not interested. And she's saying because she's at work, it's just a polite excuse for that. That's her reason that she's giving you to, so she doesn't just say, hey, sorry, I'm not interested in you. It's like, oh, no, sorry, I'm working at the moment. She's being polite, she's being kind. And you have to respect that. If you keep going, this is the only time, by the way, guys, that you'll come across creepy. If you're worried about being creepy when you're talking to women, this is why. This is the only time you will come across creepy, is when you're not respecting their boundaries. So when she does say no, as this woman did, if you then keep pushing, you keep turning up there, trying to make something happen, you talk to her friends about her, you try and get her number off her friends, whatever else it might be, right? Whatever he might have done in this scenario, you are then not respecting her as an individual, and you're actually telling her, I don't care about what you want. I don't care about what you think. I don't care about your attraction level. All I care about is what I want, what I can get from this, my attraction, and what I want you to deliver. Okay, what I want from this dynamic. And that is an inherently selfish position, and it's not respecting her, and it is definitely not loving. And if you do want a relationship, which is his ultimate goal, you have to love this person. And love requires treating them with love and acting with love. You know, I did a reel on this, an Instagram reel on this concept earlier this week about how love is a decision. It's a decision we make. It's not a feeling. And a relationship success is not based on love. It's based on the actions that show a commitment to love. And that means respecting people. It means honoring them. It means being desiring them. It means prioritizing them. All these things that you have to do throughout the process of a relationship. And one of those things is respecting them and where they're at and their boundaries, like in this situation. So if you then don't respect those boundaries, you're saying, I don't respect you as an individual. I don't respect what you want. And you are being fundamentally unloving. So you have to think about this. Am I able to respect people's boundaries? If I want to find a wife, am I a husband capable of finding that? Am I someone they're going to view as, this is someone that I see as a husband? And this is a mistake I see all the time, by the way, guys. Men, I think, are naturally more selfish than women. I think it's just naturally kind of in time with us. It's part of our sinful nature. And this is one of the ways that selfishness manifests. You know, we don't think about what women want in the dating world, only what we want from women, what we want from things. And again, I think there's a natural inclination towards that, but it's not a healthy one. So another one of these things that can show, you can ask yourself, if you're looking to find a wife, And again, if you just want ways to meet women, I've got a free guide that I've linked in the description box on YouTube. It will be underneath this tweet on Twitter, and it's on my Instagram bio on Instagram. Christian Man's Dating Roadmap. If you download that, there's a free training there which will show you the 3 best ways to meet single Christian women in 2024. So you can, if you just want the more kind of actionable steps of, rather than the bigger, deeper questions that I'm going through here of how to actually meet women, download that training. I go through it all there. It's 30-minute training, giving you the three best ways to meet single Christian women. But another thing you can ask yourself is, are my actions matching my words? So this is a question of integrity, right? Like, words are cheap. And this is something that I will tell my clients to look out for, and women as well. Words are cheap. You can say one thing and do another. And again, I've got another great example of one of my clients this week. He went on a date with a Catholic woman. He really liked her. She's successful. She works at a Fortune 500 company. She's intelligent. She paints Christian iconography and Catholic iconography. He's a Catholic. And it's like, wow, she kind of ticks all these boxes. But then when it came to pay on the date, she got very upset that he paid. And she wanted to split 50-50. And she really was like not happy about this and was like, yeah, I really need to pay 50-50. And then they went on a second date and this issue came up again, along with one or two other things. And I kind of, made him aware, look, she's saying all these things. She's showing you and telling you all these things about who she is. But then her actions are not aligning with that. She shows that she's actually, internalized narratives around feminism, around equality between people, around what actually makes up good dating. And therefore, her actions are not aligning with her words. And that's a big warning sign for me. And there was a few other issues alongside that illustrated this. But again, to refer this back to you, are your actions aligning with your words? Are you doing what you say you're doing? Are you treating things that are apparently priorities to you as priorities? What are you doing here? How are you treating it? How are you doing that? This is something you really, really have to think about and do some reflection on. And that's the hard part, because reflecting on these and reflecting on, am I bringing the best version of myself to the table, requires humility. It requires humbling yourself and accepting I'm doing things wrong and I'm not putting my best foot forward and I need to improve and change. And that's difficult, man. That's difficult. It's the same as a true repentance before Christ. It's like, to truly repent of your sins is a very difficult, humbling, painful experience. And I do think a lot of, especially the happy clappy style Christians, ignore that. And they don't want to focus in on that. And they want to see it all as beautiful. And, and then what comes out of it is beautiful, by the way. But the actual process of going through it is a very, very painful process. And it's very much the same when it comes to your dating life. There will be patterns of behavior and things that you're doing that you're just doing wrong, that you're viewing wrong, that you need to change if you want what you want from life. And it's a humbling process. It can be demoralizing when you're going through it. Part of my role as a coach is to stop my clients getting too demoralized as we make these changes and they transition from old them to new them. And as they go through this transition from this guy to this guy not getting dates, not being in a relationship, not being where they want in life, not being happy, being miserable, regretting every birthday. Every birthday comes and they're dreading getting a year older, to this guy who's getting consistent dates, is showing himself up in a different way, is presenting himself as a husband, has got a positive outlook to life, is looking forward to his birthdays and looking forward to the next stage of life as he prepares to get into a relationship, get married. But as you're transitioning from this guy to this guy, in this process, you're being pulled between the two. And that's the humbling, and that's the transition, and that's the challenge. And a big part of my job is keeping them on the right path and not causing them to fall away. I mean, how many of you guys have been on dating apps and you got frustrated with them and deleted them, because you get a bit frustrated with something that's happened, and then 3 months later you reinstall them, right? And what have you done? You've wasted 3 months of time when you could have met the right woman, and you're starting again from where you were. You're going backwards basically rather than progressing. And that's because you don't have that little bit of detachment that allows you to really stick to the process and do the right thing. And there's a real value in having someone to help you do that. So yeah, I mean, this is probably not what the guy who asked this question, this is probably not the answer he was looking for and how to meet a wife. He's probably looking for that silver bullet. Oh, just go to church and you'll meet her. It's not that simple, guys. If it was, you would have solved the dating issues you have by now. It requires a whole scale transformation of how you interact with the world, how you interact with women, how you view yourself, how you view women, and transitioning through that. And as one of my former clients who's just finished up working with me said, allowing yourself to position yourself in relationship to the ether and attracting the right people in, it requires a whole scale transformation of how you really interact with yourself. And that's ultimately what the dynastic dating program does, is it gives you a better relationship with yourself through the lens of women, because that is one of the vectors for male improvement is women. It's one of those areas where it will shine a light on us and shine a light into our weaknesses and our problems. And we have to be forced to confront them because this aspect of our life, which is so important, is just missing so much. And it's so obvious there's something wrong. You can't ignore it. And you can ignore it, but then you end up miserable and 40 and alone and depressed. And that's not where you want to be in life. Believe me, guys. So the final thing I want to talk about today in this live stream is about capitalizing on summer. Summer's here. We're nearly in July, which, by the way, this year has gone quick. And summer is a great time to meet women. I'm sure you guys, you're wandering around, you're seeing them out in their summer dresses. There's legs on show. There's, people are doing things. They're active. They're outside. They're not in their homes. It's the best time of year to meet women. And you should be looking to capitalize on it. So how can you capitalize on the summer months? Well, the first thing you really need to do is to be able to make sure you're able to start conversations, build connections, and build and get numbers. If you're not able to do that, you're not able to capitalize on the opportunities in parks, the opportunities in sports areas, when you're out and about and women are about. If you can't build those instant connections, you don't know how to start a conversation, you don't know how to build the security. So there's like 4 stages of I don't like using the term approaches, but everyone kind of understands what you mean. There's like 4 stages of an approach, right? There's the first stage, which is starting the conversation. There's the second stage, which is building the sexual chemistry and building that feeling of this is a romantic encounter where we are both treating each other romantically, and therefore she's going to potentially see you as a potential husband, which is so important. There's building the security, which makes her feel comfortable with you. So after that feeling of sexual chemistry, that attraction, there is a feeling of, okay, this guy is, he's someone who understands me, understands women, he gets women. He's not going to, treat me in some, way that I'm not going to feel comfortable with. And then there is escalation, which is in this scenario to get her number. And if you're able to do those steps, you're able to go out into parks, and there's normally, a back and forth between once you escalate, you should switch back into the second or third step. And obviously there are ways to do this. And this will allow you to then capitalize on opportunities when you're out in parks, when you're out, there'll be girls reading in parks at this time of year. There'll be girls playing sports. There'll be girls out with their friends shopping. And it's just a great time to meet more women in that means. The other thing you can do is to get involved in sporting leagues, which requires a lot. So there's a concept of opportunity windows, right? So when you're standing, in a park, you meet a girl, she's walking around, the opportunity window you have for potentially building this into getting dates and then therefore an eventual relationship and marriage, that window is very small. If you don't get her number right then and there, she is going to go. She's going to disappear out of your life. And it's very time pressured, which is why it's more difficult with these instant connections. However, if you go and join a sports league and you have activities there where you are meeting the same people every week, you're going to have a lot longer and a lot more of an open opportunity window to build that connection over a bit more time. It's, she's going to come next week, you're going to meet next week, you're going to have another opportunity. So these are really the two best things you can do to capitalize on summer. And really, the smart people would have been building these skills in spring. I always, recommend that. But ultimately, the skills that you need in summer are going to be the same thing as you need in winter. It's the ability to connect. If you're not able to connect with women, you're not going to be able to succeed with women, full stop. Whether that's dating, whether that's, approaching, whether that's when you're in a marriage and you're in a relationship, you're going to have to connect with your wife. As I said earlier on in this stream, if you're not able to do this now, what makes you think you're going to be able to do it later when you're in a relationship? Like, we need to be realistic about where we're at, guys, and not just deny reality. Don't just think that once I'm in a relationship, this problem's going to be fixed. It's not. It's not. It's just going to manifest in a different way, I'm afraid. So, yeah, this is really the only difference between summer and others. It's just the places and the locations that you can actively go to. And again, if you want a much more cohesive and well put together way to a more well put together way of actually meeting women, check out my free guide. It's in the description box on YouTube. It's on my profile on Instagram. It is under the it's under the what you call it, um, the tweet on Twitter. So yeah, these are all the things that you can do right now to succeed better. But really, there's not that much difference between summer and other times. Sorry, I was just getting a bit distracted there as someone was messaging me. Yeah, so these are the three topics I really wanted to talk about today. The importance of integrated femininity is so important. How to meet a wife, and actually how you should probably be looking at how I can become a better husband, a potential husband. Obviously, this ties into that, what I've just been talking about as well, and being able to connect with women. And then a little bit on summer, which is mainly just being a bit more proactive and going out a bit more, and you have more opportunities for instant connections. That's the only real thing. But do any of you guys have any questions for me? Let me know in the live chat. They'll come up, I'll answer them. As I've told you, this is my way and my chance to really serve you guys to the best of my ability. Like, what can I do to really help you out? And if you ask me questions, I can help you. I can help you better. My business is an act of service. I'm always open. If you email me, if you message me, I'll always respond and get back to you. It might not always be immediately. I'm busy, got a family, got a business that I'm running, but I'd really recommend, again, taking advantage of these as best as you can. But if that's all, I want to say thank you very much, guys. Everyone who joined me today, everyone who's watching it live. We had a bit of a lower audience than normal today. It's been averaging around 70, 80 people over the overall platforms combined. But I've been a little bit under the weather, so it kind of makes sense why it's like that as well. I'm not quite as high energy as I normally am. But I appreciate you all joining me. We will be on another episode next week at the same time. This is a weekly occurrence. But I just want to say thank you very much, guys, for watching. And I will speak to you all very soon. God bless.